morning. This is Erica Mabian with KC Public Schools, KCPS Homeroom. And today I'm here on our real world learning segment. And I have some STEM-tastic information for you from a good friend of mine. Her name is Tammy Buckner. She's going to tell you all about what she does and how the things she does help our real world learning scholars be all the best that they can be. Thank you for joining me today, Tammy.
Thank you for having me, Eric. I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much. This is exciting.
Could you tell us a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. So again, my name is Tammy Buckner. I run the name of my organization, my company is Tequity Digital. So it is a technology solutions company where we provide project management, software development, web development, mobile apps, and DevOps to our clients. I am also the co-founder and CEO of We Code KC, which is a passionate opportunity and program dear to my heart. We teach kids ages 7 to 17 technology, cybersecurity, and teaching them how to code. So that's what I do on a daily basis.
This seems like a really important opportunity for your students to gain some of those essential STEM skills and really connect to real world learning. Can you tell us like some of the experiences or some of the things you all focus on during your programs that you have with students?
Absolutely, Erica. So our program normally is on the first and third Saturdays of every month. And what we teach kids, we start out like, again, at 7 years old. I feel and we feel that kids that start at that age, when they learn how to read, they should be learning how to code. So my co-founder, Dr. Philip Hickman, and I, we started this program so that kids can feel comfortable, feel safe with technology. They learn everything from starting basic at scratch, which is object learning, and it's dragging and dropping, coding. And then they even go into HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Python, as well as game development. We've also started opening up to cybersecurity. So we'll talk about that a little bit later as well.
Being a former STEM teacher and having the opportunity to teach students the block coding and moving kind of up those ranks of levels of difficulty, I know sometimes student gets frustrated and they feel a little overwhelmed. And I've noticed the difference in the growth of students that have those types of experiences where I call it, they kind of have productive struggle. And I noticed that they're just a well-rounded, better student after having those experiences in STEM. And it's more specifically coding. Do you see a change in a growth pattern in the students that are with you?
Absolutely. I mean, hands down, coding opens it up for creativity. It shows them collaboration, communication, and critical thinking skills because it allows them to figure things out on their own, not even if just on their own, but also with pairing them up with another student. So it helps them with problem solving. So that helps them well-rounded, even in other areas at school, because now they can start that thinking pattern of, okay, now if I can put this A to B to C, so even in a sequence, but yeah, I definitely think coding helps students all around, even in other areas at school.
I found also parents, they're really surprised that their students are doing these types of things. I mean, especially I had seventh graders that were starting to code. Our kindergartners started this school year because we were virtual with our KCPS students. And I know parents are always so surprised of how their children are so independent and such capable young learners and individuals when they're having those kinds of experiences.
Absolutely.
What family supports do you think that our parents could offer our students in getting them engaged in other activities outside of school?
Absolutely. So again, I can definitely share We Code KC, but there's so many other opportunities and resources that are available. And I truly would suggest parents to make sure they keep their kids engaged with STEM and any type of technology patterns, because again, it opens them up and helps them think about something that they can use their hands with. I mean, now because all the kids are remote, they're at home and they're literally glued to Zoom or Teams or whatever they're using online. So now, even though we do still have that screen time, but we also want to use different things or different hardware to help them keep them engaged with their hands. So I definitely suggest to parents to get online, do some searching, and find different STEM related activities that you can do right at home outside your door. I mean, literally, there's so many STEM activities that they can do, like in the backyard. But there's small things, just keep them engaged so that it'll keep their minds thinking in different areas.
Do you have any other suggestions or any other things that you can think of that can help lead our way as we navigate through these STEM opportunities as kids continue, they're interested in elementary school, they're interested in middle school. So as they continue through their pathway in education, can you kind of give us maybe a testimonial of, some ways that helped you navigate, or maybe avoiding some pitfalls that you wish that you would have when you were in school and things like that? Because, sometimes we have a reflection and we're like, I needed that mentor, I needed that class.
Right.
I thought I was interested in this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even growing up, Erica, it was funny because I started using a lot of so my uncle, he was a electrician, and a lot of times, I was just tinkering with different things, and it kind of triggered my mind that I really wanted to do something in electronics. So I started down that path a little bit and realized it was a little bit more difficult than I really thought, but it also gave me the experience and exposure to computers. And that's when I really figured out what I really wanted to do. Again, I didn't see people in that space that looked like me. I didn't have a mentor. I didn't have anyone to show me the ropes. I probably started coding before the word really was coding, and was just starting to do things on the computer. And that just kind of triggered my mind and it kept me in that space. As I, started getting into school, went to, well, now it's called UCM, but Central Missouri State, and then DeVry at that time, and started learning and picking up things. Had my first position at the Kansas City Star doing websites. I mean, that was way back when. I'm not telling my age, but that way back when, before people were actually building websites. So it was so intriguing to me, and it really kicked off my entrepreneurial journey. And it's, again, so few women are in technology right now because of the barriers, the struggles, the challenges that we go through in technology. I'm not going to, it is very tough. It is tough being in this industry as a woman, as well as a minority woman. At the same time, it's so worth it. It has been a lucrative path for me. And that's why I encourage our young ladies, I encourage our young boys even, to make sure that if it's something that you want to do, put your mind to doing it and go for it. There's going to be challenges along the way. You're going to be in situations where you can be in a space, and again, and this has happened to me oftentimes, that I may make a suggestion in a meeting. We know that technology and is normally a male dominated industry. So being
Yes.
normally the only Black female in that industry, likely in the room, oftentimes there's things that I said that maybe didn't come across as loud or as dominant as it should have, and it was overlooked. And it could be someone right next to me, obviously could be, white male, and say the exact same thing. And all of a sudden it was the best idea ever. So those type of challenges we go through, and it's tough. But at the same time, it has been a worthwhile career for me. And this is why I started We Code, Casey, so that other students, other young men, other young boys, girls, go through this. And now they'll have someone, they'll have a mentor, they'll have an advocate to go to and help them figure out what I really want to do, what classes should I take before if I decide to go to college. We know in technology, you don't have to have a 4-year degree anymore. I mean, you literally can get certifications in different areas and still come out with the $60,000, $70,000 a year career. So although we do encourage college, at the same time, it is not necessary. So I do feel that the opportunity that I have to be able to be a advocate, to be a mentor for those that are looking to get in technology, that's the space that I'm in, and definitely enjoy it.
That sounds so much like how I champion for students. And I have a saying that it's a little bit of trouble. It's a struggle. You can't be what you don't see. And I really want my students to see themselves as what they would like to aspire. Yeah. And also find someone that is that mentor, that headspace, that aspiration that they can look to say, you know what, I want to do what they are doing, or I want to be like them in that capacity. And, you know, getting outside of athletes and entertainers and to be something that really taps into their creativity.
Absolutely.
Inclining for things that they're, you know, I like how you said that you were interested in electricity and in, you know, being an electrician at first, because you have to have somewhere. And you had that uncle who was there, and he may not even known that you were kind of like, you know, modeling after him. But I think that we take those situations for granted, and those were planting seeds. So I'm going to close out here with our interview, and I just wanted to find out if you had any other seeds that you'd like to sow for our students on KCPS Homeroom.
Thank you so much. Now, I definitely encourage any student, male, female, young, old, if you're interested in technology, try it. Try it first. Again, you can always contact us at wecodekc.org. Go online, sign up for our classes. We are available on first and third Saturdays. We allow our students to learn about technology, build websites, and some of them are even getting stipends for doing the work as well. So I encourage you. I really appreciate the opportunity. Feel free to contact me. Again, my name is Tammy Buckner. You can reach me at learntech@wecodekc.org.
Thank you so much, Tammy. And we appreciate you being on this episode of Real World Learning on KCPS Homeroom. Be sure to tag us if you have any ideas or any questions. You can tag WeCodeKC and KCPS Homeroom on Twitter, and we will be glad to connect you to all the information that you want to be abreast on and getting involved in coding. Thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of KCPS Homeroom. This has been Erica Mabian, your CTE iSpark coordinator with Kansas City Public Schools.
Hey Kansas City, it's Chef Tom. How you doing today? We're at the Cardinal Cafe at Manual Career Training Center. And today we're going to put the art back in culinary arts. We're going to do something kind of fun. We're just going to work with some apples and make up a couple of fruit garnishes. This is something I learned when I was just a kid. There was an old chef on TV. His name was Chef Tell. And one of his things that he did was this exact thing we're going to do today. So, of course, we're using our knives. So it's the first thing we're going to do. That's right. We're going to sharpen our knives. Every single time, same number of times each way. I know that we go through it every single week, but you are far better to get cut with a sharp knife than a dull knife, because a dull knife tears. Now, I've just washed my hands, and yes, I'm going to be wearing gloves today, because even though this is just a fruit garnish, this is raw, ready-to-eat food, okay? Safety first, always, every time, sanitation, all right? I know it sounds silly, but you got to do it right every single time, because if you don't wash your hands and you don't have gloves on, and somebody decides they're going to eat part of one of your birds, you may have unwittingly contaminated that fruit by not doing the right things, okay? Right thing, right time, every single time. All right, so we've got our apples, and we've got some lemon, and we've got a couple bowls of water, okay? First thing we're gonna do is take a couple of slabs off of our lemon, and we're just gonna squeeze them in this water because we wanna add some citric acid to the water so that our apples will hold color, okay? Now, some people say, well, why don't you just throw the whole piece of lemon in there? And that's because the rind is not clean. You know what I mean? We could obviously wash the lemons, but sorry. Now that I have touched the unclean lemon rind, that's right, we gotta change our gloves. All right, fresh gloves. Here we go, making some cool birds of paradise. First thing we're gonna do is take a base off the apple so that we can set it flat. That base right into lemon water, okay? Now, this is not difficult, but it really is something that you want to take your time and do right. And when you're cutting down through the apple, both ways, you can kind of tell when that piece of apple gives up, when you've cut all the way through. And you just want to take your time. You don't have to be in a hurry at all, okay? There we go. You hear that little pop? We're going to do the same thing on the other side here. Going to cut down, and we're going to turn it on its side and cut in. Okay? Just take your time, because the thing is, if you try to hurry, you're going to wind up making a mistake. Okay? So, base of the bird in your water. Now you're going to take this knife, and you notice this knife has a very flat edge to it, okay? Because we want our cuts to be fairly straight, and we don't want to go all the way through, okay? Just want to take our time, and really this process is basically repeating the same cut over and over. There you go. And each piece, you're just going to pop right into your lemon water so that you are keeping the white part of the apple white. That citric acid in the lemon keeps it from turning brown. Because really, if you didn't do that, these apples wouldn't have a fighting chance. They would turn brown pretty quick. And you're just making real simple V-cuts, okay? This is not difficult. But it is something that you really have to practice to get right. I mean, honestly, I've been making these apple birds for about 40 years. So it might look like I'm able to run through it pretty quick, but really, you just got to take your time in this process. And it doesn't matter if, like here you can see some seeds are coming out. It doesn't matter if you're actually cutting into the core of the apple. That's not going to make a difference in the end result. Just take your time, and you'll notice I'm using a fillet knife instead of a paring knife. And that's just because this job is a little bigger than just your standard paring knife job. All right. Now, you know what? We're going to get our red apple to this point real quick so that we can build both of them at the same time. And really take a look at your apple and just kind of see if you have more of a flat side that you can cut off for your base. Okay? Now here's a funny thing. This is a Red Delicious apple, and that's a Granny Smith apple. And you can feel the difference when you're cutting the apples because a Granny Smith is really, really crisp and a little bit sour. And a Red Delicious, obviously very red, and it's sweet, but it's also a softer variety of apple. I'm just gonna cut down, just like we did before, and cut in. Okay, you want to take your time. You don't ever want to be in a hurry while you're doing this, because if you are, you're going to wind up going too far with one of your cuts. There it is. You can just hear that little tiny pop when it comes out. Okay, see that? There it is. That's a huge mistake, right? Just watch. We will put that in the water. And we'll put this guy in the water. And we'll go ahead and we'll cut the rest of this. Now, typically that happens because this is such a soft apple. It's a very delicate apple. So you have to be even more careful with the red ones than you are the green ones. There we go. Just take your time, don't be in a hurry. This is not a last minute project. Okay? This is a project that you want to do when you actually have time to get it done. Because if you are struggling to hurry with this project, it won't come out correctly. There we go. Just gonna keep taking these guys off. Ooh, that one's a little loose. And again, that kind of speaks to how tender this apple is. There we go. Now, if you have this happen, you just put your pieces in, because once we get back on this, we'll be able to correct that as we're building the bird itself. Okay? I'm going to take one more off of here. There we go. Okay, so just about all of our parts for our birds are cut. So we're going to take this old gnarly heel of the lettuce, and we're just going to take it, we're going to chop it up real nice and fine. Because that is going to be the nests for our birds. Okay? Just gonna clean up our knife. All right, so we're gonna put one here and one here. We're gonna get us some nice nests going in here. It doesn't have to be too fancy or anything else. You're just looking for a spot that the heel of your apple can sit. All right, so we've got our green apple. Now we have to make the bird's head. And in order to do that, we're going to take our knife and we're going to poke in right here. And we're going to cut out a little V. Okay? And you just take your time. No hurry in this. There's your little V, all right? Now, that we've got it, let's go just a hair deeper. Okay. Now we need a bird head. So we're going to take this paring knife and we're going to cut right there. We're going to come around. Okay. Just going to trim that up a little, and then we're going to we're just going to cut this like that. We'll see if that'll stand up in there. Yeah, look at that. That's our bird head, okay? Now you see these little cloves here? This is a clove. A lot of people use this in baking. This clove is just what we use to make our bird's eye, all right? I'm just gonna trim off the little end of the clove. There we go. We're gonna pop out this head for a second. We're gonna take this clove, turn it around and pop it right in here. You just take your knife and give a little push to make sure he's in there. There we go. Now we're starting to build some wings, okay? This is not a difficult part at all. We're just gonna put these wings on just like we cut them off, only we're gonna extend them a little. And you just kind of watch and make sure that you're lining them up on either side to the other side, okay? And that's the thing, you have to watch your balance on them, because if you don't balance them correctly, they'll fall. But once the water starts to dry off of them, they come out very, very nice. And that is our green bird. And he absolutely came out perfect, okay? But we know that our red bird has some problems, right? So let's start by taking some parts of him out and seeing what we can do. There we go. All right, we're gonna wanna set that right there, right? Now, what we need to do is cut out the section for the head. So we're just gonna go in, make our little V cut. Being super careful, you guys, because you're working with a very sharp knife and it's in very close proximity to your fingers, okay? We're gonna see about making a head for this guy. Now, remember, I said that this one is kind of a more mushy apple. So you have to really take your time doing this, because if you don't, you're gonna wind up breaking it like I have a couple times. But I'm gonna show you that even though we might make a little mistake, we can still salvage what we're doing. We're gonna get a nice clove. Yep, we're gonna cut off that eye. Now we're gonna pull this guy out for a second. And just pop this eye in. There we go. Perfect. Now, this red bird is far from perfect, okay? But I'm gonna show you that even if you don't get it right the first time, it doesn't mean that the product is not useful. It means that you have to be careful in what you're doing, and you have to figure out the best way to move forward, okay? And that's what we're doing right here, right now. So we're just figuring out the best way to move forward with the product that we have. And the funny thing is just don't give up. You know, I mean, honestly, this is not really hard to do. It's a little time consuming. But the fact of the matter is that you really come out with a cool product, and there we're talking about that balance again. Okay? But the fact of the matter is that here we are, and this poor bird has had a rough time already, but guess what? We took our time, we kept on working on him, and looky there. You know what? It took us a few minutes. Well, we got a couple of perfect birds. And that's what I'm absolutely talking about, you guys, is it takes a little time and a little tiny bit of knife work. This is excellent practice anytime that you've just got, 15 minutes. You take a few minutes and you knock one of these guys out. You know what? In no time at all, you'll be impressing your friends with gorgeous birds. Hey, you know what? I want you to make a bird, and I want you to take a picture of it and send it to me at tbelisle@kcpublicschools.org. Hey, enjoy your food, enjoy your day. Thanks for coming by.
I chose manual because it's challenging and fun, and it can help me with college.
I chose manual because I wanted to get a jump start in my career with culinary arts.
I chose manual to acquire skills I'd use in real life.
I chose manual because I want to be an ER doctor, and being an EMT is my first step.
Kickstart your future today at Manual Career and Technical Center. Manual is open for all 11th and 12th grade students in both Kansas and Missouri. Learn more today at enrollkc.org/manual or call 816-418-5200.
Good morning, Kansas City. Welcome to another wonderful day in our awesome town. Today, we're going to talk to some of the people who are out there making it really look great. And if you've been watching these shows are shows called Life After KCPS, out there in the real world. I jumped into making these recordings because we were curious of really what's been going on with students after they leave high school and go out into our city. And I've had a pretty cool response from people jumping on and wanting to tell us about their path and maybe how they discovered that path. No secret that the hope would be that that's a way, young people, you can find your own, is by listening to other people talk about their discovery of what they wanted to do with themselves and their lives and their passion. So we're kind of trying to open that door and that window to these wonderful two fellas today and have them start to tell us about their path. So I'm joined this morning by Isaac Tapia and Rodrigo Alvarez, who were both visual art majors and graduated from that awesome place I keep talking about, Paseo Academy. So let's turn it over to these guys. They'll tell you what they've been doing out there, and you may have seen some of their work lately, because I think they're getting more and more of their work out there on the walls of Kansas City. So tell us, guys, what year did you graduate? You're both from the same class and knew each other then, right?
No.
Who's older? Oh, nice. Okay. Well, I knew that probably back then, but I don't think I did now. So, Rodrigo, start us up, man. What's been going on with you since you left the halls of Paseo? Not that you were in the halls.
I was not in the halls. I was in class, sir.
Of course.
After graduating, I attended MCC for a little bit for some little graphic design, and both Isaac and I are DACA recipients, but we weren't then. So I kind of got dismissed nicely. And then after that, I kind of began working in automotives, like just working on cars, vehicles. I was a mechanic for about 10 years. And I was never too far away from art. My passion was in sculpture. So I was still kind of banging out some sculptures. And then a few years later, I met with Isaac, and then him and I kind of kind of caught up. He's a little younger. So he was showing me what he was doing. He was in a studio then. And, I never really had a studio per se. So he was showing me like what he had been doing with art, so on and so forth. And then fast forward a few months, my sister works for KCPS and she had heard of an artist who had dropped out of a mural project and said, hey, would you like to give it a try? And I hadn't done art in a minute, not two-dimensionally anyway. So I said, yes, why not? And then I am like in front of this wall and with a little brush. And I'm like, you know what, let me just hit up Isaac. So I called Isaac up and then he comes up with spray paint. And I'm like, this guy's crazy. Okay, cool. So yeah, since then we've been painting murals. It's been about 4 years now.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I actually talked to your sister just the other day, and she told me to be sure to ask you where you got the idea or how you kind of got the first jump. And so how awesome that you beat her. You beat me to asking. You see that? He gave you complete credit from the very start of the interview.
There you go.
Well done, sir. That is awesome. So, hey, same question for you, Isaac. Like, roll it back for us a couple days, walking out the door of Paseo. What year was that, by the way?
That was in 2010. Yeah, wow. 2010. It's been...
Wow. It's a little while. And I was looking, I know you did a couple flyers. I know you did a couple flyers for Coffee House. One of my absolute favorites I can remember is that you made the steam of the coffee spell out the words. And, I looked for that everywhere and I couldn't find it, but I kept a lot of things like that. But I knew seeing that design, like, that it was very marketable and very, like, people loved that one and wanted to keep that one a lot. And so that was really neat. Tell us kind of what was going on with you as you were leaving the doors of Paseo.
Yeah, so I graduated in 2010, and I feel like for, I guess, people that are undocumented or kids that are undocumented, they go through this hard part in their lives when they're in high school and they find out, oh, it's time to go to college, but I don't have any documents to actually go to college. So it was kind of hard for me to figure out how to go from that to college. Luckily, I was able to figure some stuff out. I attended KCAI for 2 years. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, because of family situations, I was not able to continue my 2 years, but that didn't really stop me from continuing my art process. I continued to make art on the side once in a while, not very often, to be honest with you. I was just basically working. I helped my parents with their janitorial business. So I did that for a while. Then DACA came, and like Rico said, we were able to apply for DACA, and I tried to go back to college like 3 times, but it was very scary for me, just because I had not gone to college, and I was like, going back to KCI is really not the thing for me, because it just wasn't for me. So I tried to go to Johnson County. After taking a test 3 times to go back to school, it was really scary. So I decided to venture more into my artwork instead. And I continued to paint, and I continued to be persistent with that. And like Rico said, after a few years of having DACA and actually quitting my job with my parents, never work with your parents. Ooh, shots. I'm just saying.
Nice. And do you want to tell us why? Like, why should you never work with your parents?
Well, I just think they're always gonna treat you like your kid. Like that's my son, so you gotta do it, kind of thing. But
I see.
That's the only reason.
You gotta branch out too, right?
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, I quit my job. I started working at a ballet over in Plaza for a while, and then I was able to apply to a position at Matty Rhodes, teaching kids after school. And that's about the time that Rico called me and said, "Hey, there's this mural." And when I got there, it was probably like about a 20-foot long by, I don't know, like 12 feet tall.
It was about
10 feet tall, 20 feet long. And he had like a tiny 1-inch brush with, I mean, it was a tiny brush. And so, I mean, like you said, like,
I like my brush.
I did like the brush. But like you said, we definitely got together, and that was our first mural together. And we were like, this is kind of cool. And Rico had actually quit his job like a month later. Did you quit your job a month later?
Yeah, I think I quit my job about a month later. And because I had done something that I didn't want to do for almost a decade of my life, out of necessity. And I was kind of clouded by the fact that I had lost a third of my life then. Well, it was actually more than that, but to doing something I didn't want to do just for the bare necessities. And so I had a little savings and had the luxury of, like, you know, not doing anything for like 3 or 4 months. I mean, that is like physical work.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, we tried the art business, but, you know, we were a little too green then, and we weren't generating, you know, like substantial income. So I went back to the workforce.
Sure.
Well, we didn't know
that we got to keep something coming in all the time to do what we love. So once it gets closer to doing what you love and it coming in also, is that kind of where you guys are now, or that's what it's starting to feel like?
That's exactly where we are right now.
I'm so excited for you then. Well, then tell us about now a little bit, because I don't think the listeners can see what I've seen, and I hope they will get a chance to experience visually what you guys do, because we don't necessarily have a piece right now to reference, but go out and find the work that they're going to tell you about. But how many murals have you done now since that first one? That's so like approximately.
I would say around 50 or close to maybe
40 plus, maybe
40 plus. 50.
They're inside restaurants. I don't know. Some restaurants closed down.
Yeah.
There's a controversial couple that have been, like, you know, written over the top of. I remember, right? You got the ones you guys did on the side of Menski's of Bader Ginsburg. That's you guys, right?
Yeah, that's over at Westport.
Yeah. And then you came back in and fixed that problem by doing it again.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that. All right. Well, tell us about some of your other stuff that's out there. What have you guys, I know just recently you finished a really big one, right?
Yeah. So that was our first really big mural. It was a 24-foot by 50 by, no, we measured it again. It was 24 by 64 and a half foot long.
Yeah, 64 and a half. That's right. That's right.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was for Ewing Marion Kaufman School. We were lucky enough to be contacted by Spray KC, and we were brought on board with other artists to basically paint murals inside the school, and that was cool.
Yeah, that was super cool.
Beautiful work. Yeah, I got to see it unfold a little bit on social media, and you know, a lot of people are experiencing you guys that way, right? That are kind of coming in touch with what you do. Are you finding people from outside of Kansas City reaching out to you as well?
Yes. So apart from like people like reaching out to us, I know we apply for out of state opportunities all the time. So not out of state yet, but our next week we are going to Iola, Kansas. That would be our first kind of traveling gig, and we're excited for that. This past one with the high school was the very first time we got to use the luxury of a lift.
I saw the lift. Yeah.
Prior to that, it was ladders, which yeah,
dangerous. Yeah. Wow. Really taking some risk for your art form, right? Like, is that kind of the tradition anyway of being a muralist, is almost being like an acrobat or you know, the ability to do and get to those places nobody else can?
Yeah.
Well, for me, it is because I'm a little bit shorter than Rico, and I'm also really, really scared of heights. But I get up there.
That's good. Hey, so my first question there brought me to a thought. Do you have people you look up to as muralists? Give me a couple names, like, of people you would think, not even necessarily locally, but somebody that as you were learning your craft, you think other young people would like to look into. I don't think I could even pull out a few names, to be honest, but I bet you might have one. So, like, who else could we look for that you think kind of inspired you or pushed you to go down this path?
You want to go first?
You go first. You go first.
Oh, he wants me to go first.
All right, some process time. That's fair.
That's my height.
It goes by height. No, so for me personally, it's always been I've always looked up to like graffiti, street art kind of stuff. So for me, it's people like Belin from Spain, Smo, Kipto, 1000, Doke. Those are the people that I usually watch, and you can find them on YouTube. Mm-hmm. They're always posting things, and their stuff is really amazing. Locally, I would always have to go back to Jose Faust. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the first time I saw him, he was painting the mural over in Independence Avenue. And I was like, who is that man doing something cool?
Yeah.
And that's when I actually, like, I was like, oh, that's cool. I wish I could do that one day. Mm-hmm. And I guess I'm doing it now. But yeah, Jose Faust,
I know Faust enough to work with him on some poetry stuff too. And yeah, like some of my favorite work that I've done of my own writing was working with him in a writing workshop or something. He just pulls so much real feeling out of me that, you know, I would, you know, I understand how you could choose him as a great, you know, pathway to understanding the craft, because I think he has done that for countless people in our city. And so shout out to Jose Faust right now, right? For real. How about you, Rico? Who would be some of your influences?
So my influences as far as like mural work have been the same as Isaac's, because Isaac introduced me to those folks. In addition to that, I had never had contact with Jose Faust prior to that, but in the last few years, I've been, you know, kind of around him, and he is an awesome person, super multi-talented, and definitely someone to look up to. Yeah. So yeah, I would definitely put him as definitely someone to look up to locally. Very
cool. All right, well, let's shoot forward. Tell me some goals you guys have then, like where you want to go with this. Is this, you know, that are you starting to have those talks? Are you starting to talk about doing something bigger, building this up, or, you know, ways to market yourself, your product, I imagine that's probably the next path, or some form of, you know, website or something like that. Is any of that starting to come together?
Yes. So we do have a website, and it is.
Yeah, you can mention it. What's your website?
itraicons.com, and it's ITRA, and ITRA stands for basically our names and surnames. Because we're original.
That's smart. Isaac Tapia and Rodrigo Alvarez. Did you argue over who goes first in those two letters?
We went by sound. Yeah. Whatever sounded better. Because Riot was kind of like weird. We didn't want to stop Riot, so.
Itra. I like it. Yeah. It's meaningful. Okay. Well, so you've got some of that out there, but what you didn't tell me, like where you want to see this go. What do you guys talk about when you think that way?
We're always talking about traveling, being in other places, and also coming back and being able to
give back
to the community somehow. Just like right now, there's times that some schools do call us, and so we have like a little small, almost like a small curriculum, outlines of how to approach teaching teenagers, high schoolers, how to create their own mural in their school.
Wow.
So that's kind of a way that we're kind of figuring out how to put that into play at the same time. But I think that would be one of the goals to give back to the community. As far as goal of like everything else, it would be definitely traveling and being able to create and put our artwork in different places around the country, and when we can, around the world, definitely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, appreciate you guys so much for taking the time to talk us through that. I feel like we're kind of talking to people who are going to even print more on our city, you know, and I think that's the honor of having been a teacher and knowing people when they were very young, but then it multiplies because you guys are out there like leaving marks that make beautiful, beautiful differences and make people think. And, you know, I just appreciate that about what you've decided to do and find and, you know, push through 10 years as a mechanic, even though I imagine you're loaded with skills that some people don't have. No,
I don't want
those skills. All right. But I mean, hey, I will constantly need a mechanic. So I mean, I think your talent is bountiful here, and I'm excited for you to see where it goes. And we haven't even looked at the quality of your work. I mean, like, tell me about that. Do people say, my goodness, this is top notch or high level? Are you getting that kind of feedback? Because I would imagine, I'm not a muralist, but to me, it looks really precise and unbelievable sometimes. Like, how did they do that kind of thing? Are you getting that response from people?
I think people are starting to notice growth because there's a kind of like a morphosis of work. Like, we have gotten better, and we'll just keep getting better.
Yeah, I love it. All right, so it's all out there all over the city. Tell us a couple places to go look, and then I want you to think about this ever so important question: what we could tell these young people or not so young people who are watching today that you might have wanted to hear when you were young, or you think young people might need to know right here and now as they're getting their feet set for what they're going to do with their lives. How about a couple places we could see a mural today if we wanted to go find one?
You can go to Café Corazon over on if you go to our website, there are some of them that do have the addresses on them.
Okay.
Café Corazon is one of them that has the address on there. There's some that are inside the River Market. There's also
hydroponics. Oh, the
River Market Hydro. We did a ceiling.
Yeah. Nice.
So if you look up, it's basically like a
Michelangelo moment.
Yeah.
Kind of. Early work.
All right, very nice. All right. Well, cool. Out there in the city, make sure you go find the work, because then I think you'll see why it's such an honor and pleasure to talk to these two artists today. But then let's throw that over to you. Who wants to go first? What do you think you would share with these young people out there watching?
Oh, God. That's a lot of
no pressure, but I bet they're listening.
So for me, I've always known that I wanted to do art. Didn't necessarily see a path towards, you know, something that was self-sustainable in the art world, or I didn't think there was a business, I guess. But I guess follow your passion, do what feels natural to you. Your calling is always in front of your nose, I guess. And if it isn't, you just gotta keep, you know, kind of keep going. And once you find it, you'll know. And if you found it and you oversaw it, it'll come back and haunt you and get you, like it has me. Art is definitely something that kind of runs deep within me, and I'll always do it. So just do what feels natural.
Fantastic. All right. Follow that, sir. That was a good one.
Well, I feel like I'm going to say something that less deep than that.
That's fine with me.
For me, it's more of like, be persistent with what you want to do. Always be persistent. if you decide whatever it is that you got to do, is if it's with the arts, in my opinion, you have to learn how to separate your art and the business side of art. That is very important, and something that we also teach during our conversations with the kids when we go into the high schools. Like we always want to make sure that you know business and you know art, and how to put them side by side, but at the same time not mix them. Because if you don't know how to market yourself, how to do business with your art, it's going to be really difficult. And it's one of those moments that you're going to be lucky if you're found by a gallery or by, whatever, versus putting yourself out there, your own self. Kansas City's best known rapper, Tech9, that's one of them. So I think
Suli's out there.
Yeah, we got some names coming around too. In fact, I talked to Suli a lot on this exact show, and I've got some of his clothes. I wear the real hat every now and again. I wish I was wearing it right now while we're mentioning him. But yeah, you're right. That's a person that definitely understands the art and the business, right? I mean, he has a store, his own clothing line, definitely selling things all over this country. So very good example, and something we can kind of learn from each other, right? Like how to get that business side going. So fantastic. Any other parting words for us as we go about our day on this wonderful Friday? Appreciate you guys so much for all you're doing and all your contributions to our young people out there, but also just the overall aesthetic beauty and change of our city. So final shout out to Kansas City. Anything you want to tell them?
I can't believe it's Friday.
Awesome. Let's leave on that. I think it will be, and we will both enjoy it. So Kansas City, you've had a treat here today, and you're going to go check out the work of these two wonderful artists and muralists. And it's been my pleasure to talk with you today. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us, both listeners and guests. And we're going to call it good for today. This has been Life After KCPS. Thanks a lot.